everybody. Welcome to another incredible episode of Sound Out. I'm your host, Jesse Hubbard. With me today is a friend and a very talented individual, host of RRBG podcast, as well as Outside Interference, among many other things, and we're going to talk about all that. But please welcome to the show, Eddy Torres. How you doing, my man?
Doing all right, brother. Thank you for having me on. This is awesome that you got it up and going.
Yeah, man, it's been pretty cool. Just kind of taking cues from you, and well over 300 episodes for you, man. So
it's insane. I don't know what I'm doing in my life. What's going on? No one's even listening to the show. It's just like me talking into the void. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
that's Bill Burr. Sorry, that's Bill Burr. That's Bill Burr.
It's Bill Burr, exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because, you're like 322 episodes so far, give or take. I think that's what I saw.
I've lost track, but I'll tell you right now. That's the most recent one is 324 with Nick DePiro.
324.
That's insane, and that's just RRBG. Like, there's 100 episodes of the Comedy Store Wrestling that happened, and Outside Interference. That's what the Comedy Store Wrestling show has become, is Outside Interference.
So yeah, tell me about that, because that's something I noticed and I thought was pretty interesting. What kind of spurred the rebranding of that and taking that in a different direction?
Well, politics.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, it's just, when you're dealing with a place as prestigious, let's call it, as the Comedy Store, the world famous Comedy Store, everybody wants to be there. It's the spot. It's the place to be if you're in comedy, if you're in entertainment, even just musicians.
Sure.
There's always musicians in the house, or wrestlers are in the house. So, it's not my place to control. You know what I mean? It's what's right. Happening is what's happening, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So, the producer that was developing the Comedy Store Podcast Network, John Sosis, his contract was up in August, I think it was, and he chose not to re-sign because, I mean, there's a lot of, backstage politics that I'm not going to get involved with that he couldn't deal with. But on top of that, he wanted to build his own shit, which is what happens when you work with a place like the Comedy Store. You go there, you hang out, and then you start figuring it out and you start building. And the goal is to go out of the Comedy Store and be yourself, be your own brand. And then you can revisit the Comedy Store as throughout your career. He decided to branch off and do his own thing. And that meant that the new guy that came in wasn't really keen on keeping a lot of the shows that were on the network. He had a different vision. He wanted to do more live stuff in the belly room, which they've been doing. They're filming stuff up there and it looks terrific. So congratulations to them for all that. But it meant the show had to end at the Comedy Store. So I had to quickly scramble and figure out should I keep it going? Should I just end it? I mean, we had a great fucking finale for the Comedy Store Wrestling. We had Paul London on there, Rocky Romero, and Peter Avalon showed up. Freaking Don Barris showed up. Ron Funches. Like, we had this, rotating door, and we were just getting drunk. I had a bottle of tequila. We had some pizza from Vito's. Like, we were just having a blast. Like, John and Earl weren't even in the fucking room most of the time for the grand finale of the show. It was just, they were out there fucking talking to people, and I'm just trying to keep this show entertaining. And, but it was, we could have ended it there. But I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I've built something. We've spent a year building something. Why branch off, or why stop it? So let's branch off and figure out a name. It took me a long time to figure out a new name. Figure out if we're going to do it. Well, thank you.
It's a cool name. Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a documentary series that came out 2 years ago called Outside Interference that pops up when you Google and it has nothing to do with it, so I had to mention that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, it's the same kind of thing for me. If you Google Jesse Hubbard, a freaking lacrosse player comes up.
Oh, nice.
Takes all the hits. Apparently, he's like the Michael Jordan of lacrosse.
Oh, so well, take it.
There's lacrosse, lacrosse, and one random picture of me.
Well, you get the free follows from people that have no idea what they're following.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're
just he's good at lacrosse.
Yeah, maybe this is just the personal side of his that, we're taking a deep dive into his personal side.
Right.
There's no mention of lacrosse on this page at all. It's weird. Anyway, but yeah, dude, so whatever. I had to figure out what I was going to do, like how was it going to look? Like, is it going to be Earl and I continuing the show? Unfortunately, it didn't end up being that way. I did manage to get Earl for the first episode, and
Right.
he'll come. He said he'll come back as many times as possible, but he's trying to record a special and trying to get his life in order, so he's got less and less time to commit. And if it's not at the Comedy Store for him, like he was part of it because he's a paid regular at the Comedy Store. So he wanted to have something that tied it all together. But now that it's like he's not, he's loyal to the soil. He's a Comedy Store guy. So
Yeah.
we're lucky we get to have him every once in a while.
Yeah. He seems like a cool dude. He's hilarious. Well, that's cool. So I mean, so with outside interference, where do you see that going? What's your vision for that moving forward? Because you're just like what, a handful of episodes in, give or take, right?
Yeah, we're like 4 or 5 in. I'm not really sure anymore, but so what ended up happening, I had a lot of people like hitting me up to figure out what the next move was, and I'm not going to put people's names out there because I'm not trying to name drop or whatever it is. I just had a few people hit me up like, hey, what are you doing? What's the plan? I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me talk to some people, see what the options are. I ended up having a meeting with the Circle Six guys who do. They have it's a big entertainment company, Circle Six Entertainment, but they have the Circle Six Wrestling, which they do bar fights and shit, and a lot of deathmatch stuff, which is pretty cool. Um, so they do that, but they also have that hashtag show, which is like a pop culture. They interview movie stars and stuff like that. And they have verbal violence, which is the comedy aspect of it all. And we had a big meeting where with investor and people with money, and they're like, hey man, this is what do you want to do? And I'm like, nah, this is what I would love to do, which is have a wrestling podcast where I interview wrestlers and talk about what's going on and the rumors and the news and whatever. And then turn that into live shows every once in a while where we have actual wrestling, outside interference. Boom. That's one night. You guys already have Circle Six. It could be a Circle Six event. It's Circle Six presents outside interference, whatever. And we make it.
Yeah.
That's my vision where I would like that to go. And it would be a combination of comedy, wrestling, and music. And then they were like, oh, we love the idea. Anything you want to do, let's fucking do it. And I thought that was pretty awesome. They offered, to give me tools that I don't have. A team, basically, which I've been doing this shit alone for however long I've been doing it,
Right.
But yeah, that's the goal, man. Just keep outside interference growing, interviews, live shows, and then I also committed to them that, if they were to help with rebranding and all that other stuff, the RRBG podcast can be part of the Circle Six network. Just keep it all
yeah.
in the same umbrella. Why not?
That's awesome. Coincidentally, or maybe not so much, there was the rebranding of the RRBG, the logo, and I noticed all of that. So that's all kind of tied together for this.
Yeah, so that Circle Six's team, like they have an artist on hand. Vice Grips is his like Instagram, but he doesn't post anything on there. But I don't know if he wants me to put his name out there. But Vice Grips is what we'll call him. He's an artist for in-house artist, basically for Circle Six. All the flyers, all the merchandise, they have their own like they're all tied in with Lapel Yeah, which do wrestling pins, and they do apparel. Like there's a lot going on in this one big compound, and I'm part of that madness now.
That's fantastic, man. Like like you said, they have the tools, and you already had access, but it's a different level of access, I guess, that you have now, which is not just I'm sure like professionally fulfilling, but like on a personal level, it's just got to be really, really fun and really cool to be a part of all that.
It's crazy, dude. So, I've been having this discussion a lot with some close friends, and I guess I'll be open about it here, but none of it feels real. It starts to feel kind of like what? Like I have to depend on going back to my social media and hoping that I, took pictures and posted shit so I could be like, "Oh yeah, that was pretty cool that we were a part of that." But it doesn't feel real. It's crazy. There's so much
Yeah.
going on. And on top, I still have a day job, dude. I'm still doing, 40 hours a week. And then on top of that, running 2 shows and doing live shows with riffs. And we did Chugs once, which was like a random thing I did for Josh Barnett. So I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Basically, you're a madman, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm losing my mind. That's fine. Which one of those mental health issues is it when completely disassociated, a dissociative disorder? I think that's somewhere in there. I'm just exhausted. You know what I mean? And there's only so much caffeine in the world. So
Brother,
it's not. And then in between that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start doing stand-up. Like, what? What am I doing?
Yeah, fantastic segue into that because that's something I was wanting to ask you about. Like, tell me about that, man. Like, I noticed you're doing that, and I've watched some of the clips, and it seems really cool. Has that always been a goal of yours to do that, or has it been kind of a byproduct of just being Comedy Store wrestling around that scene? Tell me about that. I think it's really cool.
Thanks, dude. I mean, look, I've been a fan since I was a kid. One of my earlier memories is listening to Alvarez Redes, which is an old Cuban stand-up. And he was saying like raunchy shit. Kids weren't supposed to be listening to it. And the parents were all cracking up in the living room, and I would like run by and like, what the fuck? And I'd hide behind the couch because I wanted to hear it. But they would get mad if they found me listening to it, And then it grew into like Martin Lawrence, and Eddie Murphy, obviously. The Raw was a big one for me. George Carlin. Then my dad eventually started showing me George Carlin. Like, and once he noticed that I get it, he was like, here, you got to watch this guy. And,
Yeah.
just kept growing up through that. And then, when I first moved to California, the first place we went to with our bags in hand was the Comedy Store. Like, we didn't even get to our place to drop our bags. We just went straight to the store from the airport. It was nuts.
I love that.
I've been a lifetime, fan, observer, and I've been around it. I managed to Cuban sneak my way into the inner family thanks to Joey Diaz. But I was able to, hang out there and be there on nights that crazy shit's happening, and we're there till 2 a.m. in the back, and part of the family. And that just kind of always, everybody, oh, so you're a comedian. I'm like, no, I don't want to call myself that. I haven't done it. So I would just be like, no, I podcast and blah, 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 and just, keep it like that. But everybody kept asking me, like, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And I kept trying to like push myself, like, all right, let's do some open mics. Let's just try it out. And I was linking up with Joe Jimenez, like, hey, you mind coming with me? Because I've never done an open mic. I don't know how it works. He's like, oh, absolutely, dude. I'll come out with you. And we signed up to this one open mic, got up, and it felt so natural. Like I've been doing it my whole life. And it kind of clicked in my brain. I'm like, oh, fuck, I have stage experience from 10 years of being in a band. Being on stage in front of people doesn't bother me. So I have an advantage. A lot of people that start comedy, they don't have that shit. Me, I was able to tune into that like band mentality. Like, oh, I'm on stage. We're performing. That's it. And it went great. I didn't forget any of my jokes. I didn't bomb. There was laughs in the room. Like, oh, fuck, maybe it's something I can do. So I just kept going back and did like 10 or 12 mics before I decided I'm going to start doing my own shows. And I know that might seem cocky to a lot of people. Like I've talked to some comedians, like even Earl's told me you need like 100 mics under your belt before you can start, doing shit like at the store and whatnot. I'm like, okay, I'll do 100 mics. I don't give a fuck. I'm here for the game, but I know where I'm at. I'm confident in my abilities, and look at it's happening. We're 2 shows into riffs. It's working.
Right.
First show was great. Second show was better. Third show is going to be this big hoorah that we're doing. Like it's the last one of the year, and I don't know. I think it's going well. Why put myself down and be like, no, I need to go. No, fuck you. It's working.
Yeah, I mean, if it's there, it's there. So that's how riffs came to be. It was your desire to kind of move forward, do your own thing, and is that kind of what you're saying?
Pretty much, dude. So after a few mics, I was like, I asked a couple people to put me on their shows. I'm like, hey man, I'll open, I'll do 5 minutes, I'll do 3 minutes, whatever the fuck. Just let me do your shows. And everybody was like, oh, it's booked. Come back to me in a couple weeks. And I kept getting the hey, slow down. And I'm like, no, fuck you. I'll figure it out. And that's what we ended up doing. I talked to the Circle Six and like, I want to do live comedy nights at Knucklehead, which is a dive bar in Hollywood that has never had chairs in it. They were like, what? This is weird. The bartender's like, there's chairs in here? I'm like, yeah, man. Well,
what are these?
Yeah, sorry. Comedy isn't, we're trying to see if we can get the vibe of this riffs into a uproarious, chaotic, kind of like concert vibe. We're going to have the next one, it's going to have a band. So, like the first one, man. First one, there was nothing. Second one, there was, we brought a DJ in that was Rick Lopez from the Casualties.
Oh, cool.
And it was cool. He was blasting metal and punk throughout the night. But it was kind of a weird vibe, like, because I'm coming up in between the comedians to, riff a little bit on their closing lines and just bring up the next person.
Right.
And in between that space, I wanted him to play some stuff like low volume, like, I don't know. It was just weird miscommunication stuff, which is probably just going to get more complicated with a live band. But I figure with more people there, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
But you're doing it. That's the thing.
Yeah. Let's just put a band up there. There's no way that could go wrong.
So like you're like naturally funny. It comes across in your conversations and your podcasts. But how is that different? Is it an easy? So I know you're confident and you felt that it was right for you to be on stage, but is it a different approach that you find whenever you're creating material for kind of a stage presence type of presentation?
Yeah, like the way I've been doing it is whenever I get an idea of something that I think is funny, I'll write it down in my Google Docs. I'll just write it down, and then after like a couple weeks of just that, like something pops in my head, then I'll sit down and I'll try and piece that all together and like go over it and like maybe add stuff, take stuff out, whatever it is, just to kind of build what would be a set for that night. And it's different than being natural at it, like just winging it on stage, which I actually feel more comfortable doing. But I'm trying to do the right thing, which is write. Everybody tells me you should write, you should put stuff down, any ideas you get, just put it down, and then later kind of work on it. So I'm following the procedure. I'm trying to do it the right way. I don't want to fucking skip the line that hard or risk, putting on a show where I'm not prepared and I just, I'm good. I'll do fucking crowd work and then bomb and feel like shit. So I have already kind of, a normal, the vibe that comedians feel when they bomb. I get that all the time anyway. Like, that sadness is just constantly running through me. So I don't really let it get to me too much. Like if I'm on stage and I say something and the crowd doesn't react, I just move to the next bit seamlessly. Kind of like like in a podcast. Like we're talking and I notice that there's like a lull and then you just kind of bring up something. So that's another advantage that I apart from the stage stuff, 7 years of podcasting, of talking to people, having conversations, being able to quick react, because I'll have notes for my guests, but they'll say something I didn't even think of, and then let's go on that tangent and fucking just go that way. So that experience has been building in my brain too, which is helping
the reaction time. I can't remember his name, but there's this, I think he's an Australian comic. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And he would do a joke and it would bomb, and he would just go, fuck. Just go on to the next one.
Yeah, that's a good way to deal with it. Just start yelling, fuck, god damn it. Yeah. That's a good way. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I think Jesselnick was my favorite, seeing him at the store. He had most of these big names when they're at the store, it's just working out. They're working out new material. So there's always a little fucking stool next to them with their notepad on it. And he would tell a joke. I don't remember it right now. Probably some abortion joke. You know how he is. And he fucking does his joke and nobody laughs. And he just turns around slowly, very calmly, looks at the paper, and just pulls out a Sharpie and just starts scratching it. He's like, that one didn't cut it. Next, won't be doing that one again. But it's just cool to see like that procedure. Like, all right, never mind. And
That's
it's
pretty neat. I saw that with Carlin one time. This was, probably 20 some years ago, and he was prepping for one of his HBO specials, and that was the first time I ever seen that with somebody of like that level, that stature, and he had his notebook out and he was like working through things, which was pretty cool. And then it was neat to see the actual special, how things kind of materialized and how he decided to finalize things and little tweaks here and there. It was a pretty cool experience to just kind of witness.
yeah, dude. That's one of the things I loved so much about spending so much time at the store because I was going every Monday. I when I first moved here from Long Beach, I was driving 30 minutes, 40 minutes to get to the comedy store every Monday for Kill Tony. And then we would end up hanging out in the back smoking weed and oh well there's fucking Chappelle, like I'm not going anywhere so till this is over. So even if I had work the next day 2 a.m. I'm not leaving the store because Chappelle's there, and like I have to like kind of sneakily text my wife like, "Hey man, I'm with Chappelle right now. Like, please, I love you. I'll be back later." um, yeah, I just got to keep her like in the loop at least, because if I just disappear, then come off as like you're cheating or something.
Yeah.
But either way, what I'm saying is like I was making the drive every night, 2 a.m, smoked out, like fucking like I need to chill and sober up, and then and getting home at 3, and then waking up at 6 for work. Like, just wasn't working out. So we ended up moving closer to the comedy store. So now I live 7 minutes away, 8 minutes away, which is nuts.
Do you still like you go in there and spend time there? No, or is a little, is there like not
Well,
bad blood, but a little
it's
bit of
not.
a kind of a
There was a little bit of a. I went back
resentment?
one. I went back once, and there was a little bit of just like an awkward vibe, where. So what are you doing here if you're not podcasting? And I'm like, I'm just hanging out. And they're like, oh, okay. But really, what I was doing was poaching talent for riffs.
Yeah, good for you.
Sorry. Hey, remember me? We had a podcast. It was awesome. We had a good time. Remember when I brought WWE to the building and they were like, you were taking pictures with Dolph Ziggler and cool stuff. All right, that was me. So like, come hang out. I got stuff going on. That's that's the that's the vibe.
That's awesome, man. So is there like you got a lot of kind of irons in the fire here.
My hands are
How do you have kind of a
covered in
plan of attack
blisters. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. You have kind of a plan of attack for how you're going to juggle RRBG, outside interference, riffs, all of that. Do you see like you're like no, no, no.
Do I look like the type of person that has a plan? No, I don't. I don't have a. I do not have a roadmap. I mean, look, man. Life is fast, and things change fast. So I've learned to survive and just adapt on a quick whim. So I don't. I have ideas where the roads are going right in front of me, and I'm just kind of just pulling along, like trying to reach all of those roads at the same time somehow. One day that I'm gonna find in that intersection that one of those roads is closed, so we're gonna have to go left this time. I don't know, whatever it is.
I get that probably more than you know. That's exactly how my brain works.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to see a goat here, but there might be a dead end. There might be like a cul-de-sac, and we'll see. We'll see what we got to do.
I got tired of being disappointed, dude. Putting expectations on myself and just like this is where it needs to go. Like, and I'm all about manifesting your destiny and speaking things into existence. It happens to me all the time. So I know it sounds hippie or whatever, white girl, LA white girl thing, like whatever you want to call it. It definitely works. I've been able to do some crazy shit just by saying it out loud and like putting the work towards it. And I don't know where I was going with all of this. I just got lost in that conversation, but just
it was one of those dead end roads. So you just pivot and go to the next thing.
There you go.
I see what you mean. No, I mean,
Yes.
what's one of the things that I really admire about you, and I is that you you're making your own way, right? So like obviously everybody has help, and I'm not saying that you've done everything without help of other people, but you're creating your own opportunities in so many ways, and even if that means they having a partnership or a collaboration with somebody, you're getting after it. Like the thing at the Comedy Store. Okay, well that ended, and you're like, no, that's not it. Like you said, fuck it. I like this, and this is good, and we're gonna keep doing this. And so you're just like you're doing it for yourself. Like, okay, other people say that I need to continue to wait and get 100 mics under my belt. No, I'm ready now. I'm gonna do riffs, and I think that's badass, man. I think that's uh, that's admirable, and I think you should be proud of that.
Thank you, man. I'm working on it. I've had a lot of people tell me that recently. It's like, hey, be proud of your work, man. I'm like, I guess. I guess I'm working on it. I am officially in therapy, which is like the most LA shit you could possibly do. But fuck it, we're here 7 years now. Sorry, can I curse on this thing? We've been here 7.
I think that ship has sailed anyway.
Yeah, it's too late. So yeah, I've been here 7 years, and I eventually, you got to start seeing a therapist. That's just what happens when you live in LA for that long. But no, I'm working on.
I'm in the Midwest, and I see a therapist. What's my excuse?
That's true. Pro wrestling is your excuse. We grew up watching, Mae Young give birth to a hand. I think we're a little traumatized.
Yeah, a bunch of grown men crotch chopping everybody, telling them to suck it.
I'm wearing a fucking outsider shirt right now.
I was going to ask you what that is. I'm more modern. I got my MJF.
Oh yeah, I still love the modern. I love MJF. I'm not like Earl. I'm not an old
the
man.
outsiders, man. Like, let's just get one of. Give me a too sweet here. Let's connect. Boom.
That's a beautiful thing about pro wrestling, and I try to tell the normies this, the people that don't watch wrestling. But you know how fucking cool it is to be in public and a stranger just walks by you and looks at you and goes, like, it feels nice to just connect with another human being telepathically, really basically, just kind of like,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
you don't even say a word. You don't even say a word. They're just like.
We know what's up.
You give the too sweet.
If you give me the too sweet, I know that you know. That's it. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. do you think that 20, 30 years from now it's going to be everybody scissoring each other?
Oh man.
Like the Acclaim. Is
sure.
that the new too sweet?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I've been doing it lately. Who cares? If somebody holds that up, I'm gonna just fucking go right in there because there's people doing it in pictures. They're like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I make my wife do it whenever I say something that I know is funny, and I'm like, ah.
Nice.
She's like, all right. She's gotten to the point where she even like wiggles it now. I'm proud of her.
Oh, that's good. That's progress.
Proud of her. Yeah, it's progress.
Yeah, my wife, it was similar with the too sweet. Like I wanted her, a couple times I'll say something and she'll laugh and I just hold it up and she's like, no, not happening. And then eventually, like one day, she just went, boop. I'm like, yes, victory.
You want to hear the weirdest thing, and I don't really understand it. I've got 3 dogs, and my youngest dog, she's like 2 years old, and she's a little Chihuahua Rat Terrier mix. And she's just an ornery little shit. And when she starts getting zoomies and acting crazy or whatever, I throw this up, and I look at her with it, and she stops. Swear to God, I did it one time joking around, and she stops and just sits there and just looks at me. And I don't know if it's like the wolf, there's the
Satan,
there's the evil eye, you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what it is, but she's like, okay, all right, Dad, I'll be good every time without fail.
Well, look, there's a thing about the actual gesture with the hands, but there's also a thing about positioning them. Now, this is going to sound crazy. When you're trying to project an intention, it actually helps when you have a certain position of fingers. Like you're shooting direct, like a little beam of like, stop it to the dog from that point right there in your hand. She gets it. She feels it. There's stuff dogs feel. Like, when a dog, like you'll see somebody in the street and they're like happy or whatever, but then there's that one person, they're like that person probably has bad vibes. That's all.
Yeah, dogs are good. She knows when I'm like, behave yourself. Behave yourself.
Yeah. Dogs are what is perceptive. That's the word.
They really, really are. They really are. So we touched on wrestling, and I want to get into that because that's like one of my favorite things to talk about. You're one of my favorite people to talk about wrestling with. because you know more about it than probably anybody I know. And but before we get to that,
Yes.
we're talking about whether we're talking about the outside interference or RRBG or whatever. Uh, who are some dream guests that you have never had the privilege of having on your show that are goals, or maybe even just kind of just a fever dream of a possible show somewhere down the line?
Yeah. Well, for RRBG, there's a different list than outside interference. So I'll do that.
100%.
The
Sure.
RRBG, for RRBG, I would love to sit down with Trent Reznor. That's number one on my list. He's the reason I started doing music. Although I'm not a fan of his later work in the last couple of years, like it's fine, it's good, but it's movie soundtracks. Like I miss the the Fragile kind of days.
Sure.
But sorry, my dogs are acting up now. Speaking of dogs, so yeah, Trent Reznor, number one.
Try it, man. Try. I'm telling you.
Calm down. All right. So Trent Reznor, I used to want Maynard from Tool. But after seeing him on a couple Rogans, I'm just kind of like, maybe not.
Yeah.
No offense. It's just he doesn't seem very engaged in like life. He's too busy doing his life.
I get it.
You know what I mean? He's got a vibe. So I wouldn't really want that.
Sometimes somebody may be a huge name, but they don't come across as a great conversationalist for whatever reason in that forum. I get it.
No, and like I've dealt with a lot of those in the beer game. The brewers that are like, there was a time period there where some head brewers were kind of celebrity-ish, kind of like a Iron Chef, vibe to it. But those guys are the most antisocial, and like they have zero conversational skills. Like they're just sitting there trying to figure out new ways to dry hop beer. So it's fucking crazy.
The whole time just taking notes about beer, and yeah.
Genius man, but don't podcast with that guy. Nobody wants to hear that. That's going to be weird. All right, Trent Reznor, Chino Moreno of the Deftones would be number 2 for RRBG.
Right on.
And I'm trying to think of a third that like someone I haven't gotten on, and these are people that I've come very close to having on the pod. Like just
Sure.
I've hung out with their band, whatever it may be. Like I've hung out with a lot of the Tool guys and the Deftones guys. Shit, man, I don't know. Those are my top 2.
Yeah, I'd say if a third one doesn't immediately come to mind, then it
would be Maynard.
It's not the dream list.
If he was a better fucking talker, you know what I mean? I'm calling you out, Maynard.
I get it.
Get some public speaking classes. I don't know. Anyway, outside interference.
Before we go on to outside interference, actually, real quick, and you don't have to like. Obviously, I don't expect you to name names, but like, did you ever have an experience with a guest that you thought would have been awesome, and it was somebody you're really looking forward to, and it kind of laid an egg, kind of like Maynard on Joe Rogan? Has that happened a couple times?
There's podcast episodes that have never seen the light of day, if that's what you're asking.
Oh.
There's and I've told sort of the story on not much, but I have a whole hour and a half footage worth and audio's worth of an episode with DJ Lethal that never saw the light of day, because it's just a lot. It was a lot of just hanging out, and it wasn't good show. You know what I mean? It was good hangs.
Yeah.
I was having a blast. But the footage and the audio sounded like shit. Like we were in his convertible driving down, Sunset Drive. And like he's like, over there's the Rock and Roll Ralphs. I'm like, fuck yeah, Rock and Roll Ralphs. Like it's not a podcast. However, there's a lot of interesting footage there that I think we could piece together if he were to give me another shot to like, let's do it real this time, please. Like, come on. And then we could like, inject some of that footage from the old stuff, just mix it up in between and make it look cool. But yeah, that was one that it wasn't a podcast. We were just hanging out. And at one point he was like, just turn it into a day in the life of DJ Lethal. I'm like, well, if you want that, you need to pay me. Like, this is for me. Like, if you want me to film your day in the life of Lethal, then we got to talk production costs. Like,
yeah.
Oh man. So there's that. I mean, I had a podcast with Brian Holtzman that I had to like throw away because I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a legend comedian from the Comedy Store. Closes every night. Like he was the raunchiest, loudest, most out of control. He has a special on YouTube that just came out. It's called Cancel Holtzman. So I highly recommend you go check it out. He's the best. But our podcast did not go well. I'll say that. So I did not put it out. I left it in my hard drive for myself.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you don't think you'll ever do anything with that?
The Holtzman one, nah, there's nothing there. I mean, he was driving and then he like pulled over into some like bus station. There was like dump trucks dumping garbage. I'm like, Holtzman, what are you doing? Like, where are you? Didn't we agree to do a podcast? Why are you driving? Like,
that's kind of a bummer.
It's fine.
You know? It's like
it's fine.
You gotta be, you're appreciative of somebody taking the time to do it, but if they're kind of like half-assing it and not showing your podcast like the respect
I get
that they should.
I get that, but it's Holtzman. I get it, but it's Holtzman. I let him ride. Like, fuck it. He's old. Yeah. What am I gonna do, man?
Yeah, I feel you. Nothing you can do about it. It's just a bummer.
Yeah, but yeah, that's that. I mean, one that went really fucking in the opposite direction was the dude from Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
Have you seen that episode?
No, I haven't seen that one. But I'm a fan of the Eagles of Death Metal, and you're saying
highly recommend it.
Okay. Okay.
So he invited me. So I was friends with I am still friends. I don't know why I said it that way. I'm friends with Alex, who used to work at Orange Amps, and he set me up with Jesse Hughes because he's, he was one of the artists. And shout out to Alex, by the way. That dude's hooked me up with so much cool shit. I've hooked him up too. Like, we're friends. We're mutual benefactors here. But like, he's he got me into NAMM and hotel parties at 2 or 3 in the morning with Mastodon, and it's like, it's nuts. But hanging out with Jesse Hughes, we finally connected. Like, all right, let's do a podcast. Come to my house. I'm like, all right, cool. That sounds fine to me. I showed up all pro with my bag of, lights and stands and mic stands, and I walk in, and there's a house in the front, and then you have to walk through a driveway to get to the back where he's at. The door's open. And I get close to the door, and some big tall motherfucker with like mechanic overalls all covered in oil and shit walks out. He looks at me, he's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "What's up, dude?" He's like, "Cool." Just keeps walking. I'm like, "All right." Go inside. There's some lady sitting on the couch. I'm like, "Hi there. I'm Eddie. I'm here for Jesse. We're doing a podcast." The house was filled with shit. Like, I have stuff on the walls here, but it's like organized and framed. I'm talking filled, like those restaurants you go to that have like the license plates on the walls, and there's posters on every inch, right. And there's toys and dolls and statues, and there's like the coffee table was made of like what seemed like just a piece of tree that they got from outside, and it had like bullets and knives, cigarettes being put out like right into the table, like chaos. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And the lady's like, "Hey, have a seat in the throne." He has a throne in his living room, so I sat down in the throne, and in walks Jesse Hughes. Like, "What's up, dude? All right, give me a second, man. I was just working on the bike." I'm like, "All right, cool." Goes to the sink and pours Clorox bleach on his hands and starts going like this. And I'm like, "Hey, man, are you pouring Clorox bleach directly into your hands?" He's like, "Yeah, it kills everything." I'm like, "Cool, dude. Sounds good." I set up. I'm like, "Where do you want me to set up? Here in the living room?" He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "All right, cool. Set up." He sits down, does a rail of something in the back. Like, I hear him, like whatever I don't know what the fuck it was, but sits down and starts talking about how Steven Spielberg's a pedophile and E.T. is a boy love movie. It's a good episode.
having that backstory and like the setup Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it
Look
tonight.
around the environment while you're watching the episodes. Look around me. There's like a dildo right here, just pointing out like out of nowhere. At some point halfway through the episode, his cat jumps. He has PA speakers on stands in his living room because he does IG live streams. By the way, this was all in the middle of the pandemic when I wasn't supposed to be around anyone.
Right.
His cat knocks over his PA speaker into his TV, his flat screen TV, and breaks the TV. I'm like, what the fuck? And this is halfway through. I kept it in, most of it. I edited a little bit of it out, but and then he just like he fixes everything, he puts everything back, and just sits back down like nothing. All right, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? Stop! What is happening? But yeah, highly recommend that episode if anything.
Sold. Yeah.
Mm.
Sold. You had me at dildo coming out of the wall. Honestly,
It's insane, dude. It was
the
insane.
sticking point. Yeah. I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Yeah.
So what about outside interference? Who's the dream guest?
Oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin, number one.
Sure. I feel like that's an easy one, right?
Chris Jericho, number two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the first two I would think of. Obviously, The Rock, but at this point, I honestly don't even feel like The Rock is a WWE person. He's Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, like, listen. The Rock wants to do your show. Hell yeah, right? But like, he's so polished and like Hollywood. To your point, you're not getting a real conversation, not getting a real interview, right? And listen, man, we could sit here and talk about wrestling probably all night, but I'm gonna let you go because I really appreciate your time, and I know you got things to get to tonight. But thanks so much for joining the show, Eddie, and thank you to everybody for listening tonight. We're definitely gonna have Eddie back in a future episode to really dive all in with the wrestling stuff. The man's a wealth of knowledge. So thanks to Eddie, thanks to you guys for listening. Till next time, friends.